Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev has recently been officially signed as the main event of a fight night on December 19th, and in this video I thought we would discuss some early thoughts about the matchup being made and how it was made, also talk about a prediction on how we think the fight's going to go, and also discuss the card as well, because this is the final fight night card of the year, and we need to go out with a bang before we start 2021 to end this whole 2020 saga of the UFC, so I thought that's what we'll discuss in this video. But first things first, let's talk about how this fight was made. Khamzat Chimaev has been struggling to find an opponent recently. It doesn't seem, and I don't blame anyone for not wanting to step up and take him on, but still, I felt like we had some ideas over who he was going to be taking on next. We knew that it was probably going to be at welterweight, because that seems to be the division that Chimaev is focusing on right now, on getting to the top of, and then he was going to think about moving up to middleweight and light heavyweight afterwards, but I thought, you know what, he's focusing on the welterweight division. I started thinking of some names. Alex Oliveira, Bilal Muhammad, those were the two names that I thought of. Both of them ended up signing fights almost a week after I started discussing potential matchups with them and Khamzat Chimaev, and then I thought, you know what, another great matchup that would make sense would be Neil Magny, and then the UFC shut me down again in my ideas, and a week afterwards came out and said that Neil Magny was not in their plans. As soon as the UFC came out and said that Neil Magny was not in their plans for Khamzat Chimaev, I started to smell something was a little bit up, because he's very highly ranked. Why would they say that he isn't in their plans unless they had a more highly ranked fighter than Neil Magny? Leon Edwards gets removed from the rankings for... It was really unfair to Leon Edwards. I know he was turning down fights, and I know he turned down Wonderboy, and I know he turned down a short notice fight with Colby Covington, and he turned down another short notice fight with someone else as well. I can't quite remember. Then they offered him Khamzat Chimaev, and he turned it down as well, because I don't blame him. He's number 3 in the world. Why would he take on Khamzat Chimaev, a guy who does not have a win over a single UFC welterweight on the roster other than Rhys McKee? And Rhys McKee doesn't even have a win at welterweight until he faces Alex Moreno, and we'll see what happens there. But still, Rhys McKee's a lightweight from Cage Warriors, isn't even a welterweight, so I don't blame Leon Edwards for not wanting to take the fight in the first place. But let's be real on what happened here. Leon Edwards said no to Khamzat Chimaev, a guy who was not ranked at welterweight and does not have a win in the welterweight division against a UFC welterweight. The UFC removed him from the rankings for doing this. Then he accepted the fight with Khamzat Chimaev, and I'll read the tweet right now from Leon Edwards. He said, "I'm still in the rankings. Fuck all the inactivity. The only reason I haven't fought is because all these so-called top guys turned me down. We know that's not the truth because Edwards turned down Wonderboy, but still." Then he said afterwards, Khamzat wants to fight then. He knew exactly what he needed to do to get his position back in the rankings, and as soon as he signed a fight with Khamzat, what do you know? No problem with him turning down fights anymore. They put him right back in the rankings at number 3. Him versus Khamzat Chimaev. So what basically happened here is Leon Edwards got basically mugged for his ranking spots so that he would take on Khamzat Chimaev. And if he refused Khamzat Chimaev again, we might see Leon Edwards with his brother at Bellator. Like, honestly, I don't know what would have happened if Leon Edwards turned down Khamzat Chimaev again after he got removed from the rankings, because I genuinely don't know if the UFC would have cared. He's not really that big of a name. The hardcore fans would have cared because it would be so unfair. But I think they genuinely would have just let him go to another company and would not mind about him leaving whatsoever. Like, Khamzat Chimaev signing a fight with Leon Edwards and Edwards agreeing to it has kind of saved Leon Edwards' career, and it's a weird situation that we're in, but that's how this division works. That's how this company works now, I guess. We're just going to strong-arm fighters into doing what we want them to do, apparently, according to the UFC, but still... The fight has been made. I think that Leon Edwards is going to beat Khamzat Chimaev. I'm going to say it right now. I know I've gained a lot of Team Khabib fans over the past few days. I picked Khabib to beat Gaethje quite accurately. I said I've made a bunch of videos about Khabib versus Gaethje. I know I've gained a lot of the Team Khabib fan base over. I'm ready to lose them right now. I'm picking Leon Rocky Edwards against Khamzat Chimaev because we don't know how good Khamzat Chimaev is whatsoever. Okay, and maybe I would be open for a bit more of an upset if I didn't just watch Park Yun-yong go out there and do exactly what Chimaev did to John Phillips, but just without a finish. He took down John Phillips whenever he wanted to, as soon as he wanted to, straight for the legs, and John Phillips might have had the worst takedown defense I've ever seen in my life, and that performance from Park Yun-yong against John Phillips makes me think a little bit less of Khamzat Chimaev's performance and Khamzat Chimaev's skill level overall. And I know you can't blame me for that, okay? Because Park Yun-yong went to a reasonably close fight with Marc-Andre Barriault. And then he went out there and did that to John Phillips. So don't mind me while I sit here and tell you that Khamzat Chimaev has not fought anyone that tells me he's going to be beating Leon Edwards up the rankings. In fact, after Park Yun-yong's performance against John Phillips, I wouldn't have minded a Neil Magny pick over Khamzat Chimaev. So for him to be jumping even higher up the rankings to take on Leon Edwards, it's a great gamble to make because Edwards has been very inactive and Khamzat Chimaev has been probably the most active guy over a short period of time that we've had in the UFC. So that's going to be a massive clash, and Khamzat's going to have the favorable... He's going to be favored because of that. I was going to say favorability. That should be a word. I'll invent some words and we'll start putting them in dictionaries. But still, Khamzat Chimaev is favoured in that regard. That was a better way of saying things because he has been more active. And maybe he could catch Leon Edwards being a little bit rusty in the first round by being a fast starter with some powerful hands. But still, I'm going to be picking Leon Edwards to win. He's got great takedown defense because even though I do a little bit talk bad about Leon Edwards, and I'll talk about that in this video or maybe right now as well, because Leon Edwards for the longest time has been talking about title shots. In my opinion, Leon Edwards has not in any way earned a title shot, and I feel like the MMA media has kind of done this to him, and maybe his team and his friends have done this to him as well. Someone needed to sit down with Leon Edwards and tell this to him very, very straight. Leon Edwards, you beat RDA when he was ranked number 5 or something. You don't get a title shot for that. RDA lost to a bunch of guys before you beat him. Before that, you beat Gunnar Nelson by split decision. I thought it was a very clear win from Leon Edwards. A unanimous decision is what it should have been. And he kind of let Gunnar Nelson have Mountain at the end of the 3rd round because he knew that he'd won the fight already based on the 1st and the 2nd round. Little bit risky to do that, but still. Gunnar Nelson, unranked right now in the welterweight division. You beat Donald Cerrone. Not ranked right now in the welterweight division. You beat Peter Sabota. Good job. You know, Brian Barberina. These are good wins, don't get me wrong, and it's a good resume, but these are not championship asking resumes. These fighters do not get you a title shot, and that's been very clear for a while, and I've always thought that Edwards needed 1 or 2 more big wins before he would get a title shot, and Khamzat Chimaev is that perfect win. If Edwards can shut down the Chimaev hype train, all of a sudden everyone knows who Leon Edwards is, and we might stop calling him Leon Scott. I'll be honest with you guys. If Leon Edwards beats Khamzat Chimaev, I want everyone in the MMA community to stop calling him Leon Scott, because I think that he would have earned it if he does indeed shut down the hype train of Khamzat Chimaev. I think that he's going to beat Khamzat Chimaev, because even though I just read you those names and said that they weren't good names in terms of a title shot looking resume, I will say this. That's Gunnar Nelson. That's Donald Cerrone. That's Peter Sabota. That's Brian Barberina. That's Vicente Luque as well. Artem Tumanov, who was a good fighter at the time, 15-4. Dominic Waters, not too good. We're getting a little bit weird now, but still Gunnar Nelson, Rafael Dos Anjos. Great wins to have. And these are in 5-rounders as well against Rafael Dos Anjos, which is where Dos Anjos kind of has a big chance to get against a lot of guys because he can keep the pace up, he can keep going, he's very experienced, he's a veteran, he can use some tricks in those later rounds, but still, I'm going to pick Edwards to beat Khamzat Chimaev. Too strong in a clinch, great takedown defense. In fact, even though he got controlled by Usman, he showed good takedown defense there, and since then he's showed nothing but great takedown defense in all of his fights, stopped all of Cerrone's takedowns, and I know what you're going to say, Cerrone doesn't have anywhere near the takedown level of Khamzat Chimaev, but I reckon if Donald Cerrone got in on a double leg on Rhys McKee, he's taking him down and smushing him to pieces. That's a fact to me. If Donald Cerrone got in on a takedown on John Phillips, I reckon he would tip him the fuck over and go cow tip him with John Phillips. That's a fact to me. Gunnar Nelson, Rhys McKee, that would be a bad matchup for Rhys McKee in my opinion. Gunnar Nelson would take him down. Rafael Dos Anjos would take Rhys McKee down like it were nothing. So we know that Leon Edwards is at least far, far, far beyond the level of anyone Khamzat Chimaev has ever faced. But let's really look at the fighters that Khamzat Chimaev has taken on. Gerald Meerschaert, coming off a KO loss to Ian Heinisch. Does Ian Heinisch earn a shot at Leon Edwards at welterweight now? No, never mind. Gerald Meerschaert, 31-13. Very cool. Then he beat Rhys McKee, 10-2. Dana White called him the hottest prospect out of the UK at welterweight. He wasn't even a welterweight, he was a lightweight, and he wasn't even the hottest prospect out of the lightweight division in the UK because he lost 2 fights to Terry Brazier and also to Tim Barnett, who are now not really doing too good. Just thought I'd mention that as well. Not to mention, he also took the fight on like a less than a week's notice, upper weight class, on Fight Island. Thought I'd mention that as well, but Khamzat Chimaev also beat John Phillips, who we've now seen get ragdolled and have continually seen get ragdolled throughout his career and get completely dominated against everyone other than Alan Amadovsky, and that fight was rigged. Look into it. They were late for their main card and they made those guys square off in the middle and throw bombs. Guaranteed, but still, I'm picking Leon Edwards to win. I don't like the precedent of this sets. Like, if you do win, like, what has Khamzat Chimaev done at welterweight to earn a shot against a top guy? It's very weird. Like, people talk about Conor McGregor winning 3 fights and then getting a fight with Poirier. I know some people will make that example, but at least McGregor beat 3 guys in the featherweight division first. Chimaev fought 1 guy from lightweight and Cage Warriors, 1 guy taking the fight on short notice at welterweight. Oh, no, sorry, 2 guys at middleweight and 1 guy from Cage Warriors at lightweight. He has not yet fought a welterweight. And he's getting a top 5 guy, top 3 guy, that could be a title elimination bout. It's weird. I think it's a little bit too quick. And I think Leon Edwards is going to show great takedown defense, because I've seen in Khamzat Chimaev's career, especially against the opponent that a lot of people talk about when it comes to Khamzat Chimaev, Ikram Aliskerov, who just with a basic understanding of a whizzer and underhooks was able to stuff a couple of takedowns against Chimaev, and I just don't think that Leon Edwards is going to get caught with any of that stuff. I don't think he's going to get ragdolled. I don't think he's going to get torn apart, but I will say this. Khamzat Chimaev has got a very good opponent to learn against. And I'll tell you what that means, because if he went up there against a Masvidal, and we had to see if Chimaev was the real deal against Masvidal, he might get KO'd stiff. If he went up there against maybe a Usman, he might get completely ragdolled and embarrassed. Leon Edwards will do enough to win against you. So it's a very safe, for his hype-wise, it's a very safe guy to test yourself against, because Leon Edwards is hardly going to go out there and KO you in the first round if he's better than you, or ragdoll you around the place and submit you if he's better than you. Leon Edwards, in my opinion, is going to win this fight by weathering an early storm with his fight IQ, which he has amazing fight IQ, by the way. We saw that in the RDA fight. He's going to weather a storm, come back as the rounds go on, maybe lose the first round. I'll pick Leon Edwards by unanimous decision, 4 rounds to 1 or 3 rounds to 2. We shall see. I've got Edwards taking the fight and getting himself the win, but still, let's talk about the card that they're on as well. December 19th, a great card. I thought we'd add some amazing fights to that card to kick off or to end the year with a massive bang, which I think we should do with the final fight night. We've already got great fights on the card, but I'll fill in the blanks here, guys. Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev, signed as the main event. Marlon Moraes versus Rob Font, signed as the co-main event. Bilal Muhammad versus Sean Brady, signed as the feature fight. We need 3 more fights for the main card. Aspin Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. 4th fight down the list. Matt Frivola versus Guram Kutateledze. Great fight to add to the card. You've got Khamzat and his teammate then on the same card, and a tough competitor in Matt Frivola as well, who's on a 2-fight win streak right now, also coming off a close split decision. Him and Guram would be a great matchup to put on the main card, and it would get Guram some spotlight as well to be on the same card as Khamzat Chimaev. Also on the main card to kick it off, Chris Daukaus versus Chase Sherman should be on the main card in my opinion. On the prelims to headline, Shamil Gamzatov versus William Knight. Great fight to have. Next down the list, Andrew Sanchez versus Andre Muniz. Great fight. Sabina Marzo versus Mayra Bueno Silva. You've got to chuck a women's fight in there somewhere. Even though I don't want to, but it's in there because they have to fill a quota whatsoever. Whatever though. Tafon Nachukwi versus Jamie Pickett is on the card, already signed. I think Rodrigo Bontorin versus Matt Schnell should be rebooked on this card at flyweight. And we've also got Deron Wynn versus Antonio Braga Neto and Rick Glenn versus Carlton Minus. That finishes off the card. I think that'd be a great one to end the year on. Let me know what you think about this matchup between Edwards and Chimaev. I think Edwards is going to teach him a bit of a lesson and win the fight by decision. But let me know. Let me know what your arguments are for Khamzat Chimaev. I reckon a lot of people will be talking about the long layoff for Leon Edwards. I think that's going to be a huge factor. But the fact that the odds are this way, I think Leon Edwards might be an underdog. It blows my mind. It blows my mind that the odds are this close. Khamzat Chimaev should be a 2-1 underdog, and that's the only way I would put money on him. I'm picking Leon Edwards to win, and I think he'll get the job done. Thank you for watching, and for Leon Edwards, this is going to reignite his career if he does in fact get the win. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. See you later.